On the horizon of suburban Texas streets, where the heat of a spring day makes the air glassy, I, Henry Cooper, began to notice subtle changes in the behavior of my wife Elizabeth. She was, above all, an elegant woman, with thick hair the color of a sunbeam, which she usually wore in loose curls on her shoulders. Her eyes, gray-blue like the sea on a cloudy day, were usually full of life, but lately I've seen something strange in them, as if a mysterious cloud had eclipsed their usual brilliance. "Honey, what's wrong with you? You're not the right person right now," Henry asked Elizabeth at dinner. "Nothing, dear, I'm just tired after work. Nothing unusual." However, this was just the beginning. She began to point out that her new boss, Arthur, was simply amazing. The term pierced my heart like a stake. He pinned me to the ground, and jealousy began to corrode my heart. "Arthur, are you talking? You've been talking about him a lot lately." "Yes, Henry, he's just so charming and smart. You could have met him, you would have liked him." Despite my attempts to contain my doubts, they only intensified. Eventually, I decided to hire a private investigator to get into my wife's secrets and uncover all her hidden secrets. Suspicions began to grow in my soul, like dark clouds obscuring the clear sky. Every time Elizabeth mentioned her new boss, Arthur, a feeling of discontent and jealousy squeezed my heart. I could see her eyes light up at the mention of his name, and her smile grew even brighter. "Henry, why do you mention this Arthur so often? It's starting to bother me." "Elizabeth." "Oh, Henry, just because he's so smart and charming. I just like working with him. We're just colleagues." Every time she talked about his charm and intelligence, I felt a burning jealousy rise in me. He was an athletic man, strong and proud, with a tall stature and broad shoulders. His athletic appearance and confidence attracted glances, and his piercing gaze and smile caused awe in many women. "Henry, could you just focus on your work and not think about him?" "Elizabeth, you're right. Henry, I'm sorry. He's just such an interesting person." But despite her assurances, my suspicions did not abate. I felt that something was wrong and decided to find out the truth. Mental anguish overwhelmed me like storm waves crashing against rocks. I suffered, vacillating between faith in my wife and the fear that she might betray me. Eternal questions swirled in my head, and the internal battle between loyalty and jealousy became more and more fierce. Henry was constantly having an internal dialogue with himself. Should I trust Elizabeth? Maybe I'm just being paranoid. But what if she's really cheating on me? What should I do? This internal conflict led me to a decision. I couldn't keep silent and wait any longer. I had to find out the truth. Jealousy and anxiety fueled my decision, and I decided to hire a private investigator. He contacted the detective. "I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. I understand that this is an unusual request, but I really need your help. I suspect that my wife is dating another man, and I need proof." "Don't worry, Mr. Cooper. I understand your condition. I promise you that we will do our best to find out the truth. You can rely on me." It was a crucial moment for me. I surrendered to my feelings and decided to take this step to find the truth, even if it turned out to be painful. At that moment, I realized that I could no longer remain in the shadow of doubt, and my determination increased. My fears and suspicions became reality when a private investigator presented me with evidence that shattered my last illusions. Photos, videos, and audio recordings were hard evidence of my wife's affair with her boss. My heart ached when I saw how she betrayed me. It seemed impossible, but the evidence suggested otherwise. She's been lying to me all this time. Detective Harrison called a little later. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cooper, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have even more evidence if you want to see it." I slowly scrolled through the files. Each picture and recording pierced me like a lightning bolt. My beloved Elizabeth, whom I had loved and trusted for so long, betrayed me, and it was something I could not accept. Henry, I can't believe she did this. What should I do now? Detective Harrison, now is the time to decide what you want to do with this. Mr. Cooper, we can help you with the divorce and other legal issues if you decide to go this way. Confirming my suspicions was a devastating blow to me. I was torn between the desire to save my marriage and the pain of betrayal. But I knew I couldn't stay in the shadow or lie anymore, and I had to make a decision about what to do next. After I became convinced of my wife's infidelity, my heart was filled with determination. I decided to reveal the truth so that she would see the consequences of her betrayal. The plan was simple. I would arrange a meeting in a restaurant and reveal the truth to her and her lover. Henry was thinking about what to do. Now is the time to let them know that I know the truth. They must see that they cannot escape responsibility. I invited them to dinner at a restaurant with a good reputation in our city. I booked a table in a secluded corner where no one could listen to our conversation. My jealousy was a fire that burned in my chest, ready to flare up at the first sign of the deception. When Henry was sitting at the table, he saw Elizabeth and Arthur arrive. They arrived at the restaurant after work. He greeted them with the words, "Hi, Elizabeth." "Hello, Arthur. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." Elizabeth was somewhat surprised by her husband's request for a meeting with her and her boss. "Oh, Henry, I expected that you decided to invite us to dinner. What a surprise." Arthur was also a little embarrassed. "Yes, Henry, it's nice to see you. To what do we owe this meeting?" My eyes sparkled with determination as I looked at them. They might have thought that I didn't know the truth, but I was ready to reveal everything to them and make them answer for their actions. The tension in the air was palpable when I finally decided to reveal the truth to Elizabeth and Arthur. My hands were shaking with excitement, but I knew that this was the only way to get them to confess and make them face the consequences of their actions. Henry was brief. "Elizabeth, Arthur, I have something to tell you. I found out the truth about your affair, and I have proof." Elizabeth whispered with a trembling voice, "What? What do you mean, Henry?" And Arthur said incredulously, "These are some kind of ridiculous accusations. We don't have an affair." My heart was beating like a drum when I revealed all the evidence in front of them: photos, videos, audio recordings. Their faces expressed shock and despair as the truth became clear as day. "This is the end, Elizabeth. I cannot continue to live in lies and betrayal. We should get a divorce," Henry said harshly. Elizabeth wept and whispered, "I'm sorry, Henry. I don't know what else to say." Her eyes filled with tears. She understood the severity of the responsibility of her actions and the pain she had caused me. But most of all, Arthur was surprised by the words that he uttered with a threat in his voice. "You're going to pay for this, Cooper. You and your nasty wife." In response to these words, Elizabeth turned in shock and looked at Arthur. But he was adamant. "And you thought I loved you? I'm just a man, and it was my man's fun. I never loved you and just used you. And you were blind and in love. It was just convenient for me to meet with you while everything remained a secret. Well, now that the whole mystery has been revealed, I can only tell you that I no longer need you, and I will do everything to fire you. You are too intrusive, and it was a burden for me to communicate with you." Elisabetta was confused by his words. Her eyes were filled with tears. She wanted to object to him, but then put her hand to her mouth and stopped her words in time, turned around, and left the restaurant. I also couldn't stay in this place anymore. I had utter contempt for Arthur, and I restrained myself from hitting him in the face. That's why I decided to leave first. My heart was bursting with pain. It was a moment of truth that changed our lives forever. The words divorce and betrayal were in the air when I decided on a new path for us. It was a decision I had to make for myself and for self-respect. I could not forgive such a betrayal, although I understood that Elizabeth was far from being in great condition right now. I think it was a big blow for her, even more than for me, because in an instant she lost both her husband and her lover. She was completely broken, tried to apologize, said she loved me, that it was a mistake, but I understood that these were just words and that if it happened once, it could easily happen again. Although my heart was bleeding from the pain, I understood that it was necessary for our future. A new path was inevitable, and I was ready to follow it to a new happy future. Getting divorced wasn't easy, but I knew it was the first step on the path to healing and a new life.